Hudson has a meltdown. He is the first player, Paul, since 2000. That's 25 years to be flagged 4 times in a single drive. Okay. Can you walk me through what's going on? First of all, head slaps are illegal. I don't know why in the world he'd be head slapping anybody. It hasn't been legal. Yes, we know Deacon Jones kind of perfected that through,
He
back
sure
in the
did.
day. But Paul, this gentleman had a meltdown on the sideline. You're talking about 25 years is a long time. What happened? We started the game off in the hole with all these penalties. What happened with Hudson?
All right. First of all, let's go back to the fact that the Giants signed Hudson because he has a good skill set in terms of his size, his strength, and his weight, his experience, and they love his intangibles. Brian Daboll's told us multiple times since Hudson came onto campus about how he likes his edge, his feistiness. Daboll is very fond of the dog mentality, DAWG.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That's one of his favorite attributes for a player. So understand this. When you bring in guys who have that type of personality, there will be occasional times when they're going to get a little rough around the edges and they may cross the line. That's part of what being a, quote, dog is. They're not always going to be quite within the boundaries of what you want them to be. You run the risk sometimes of the guy being a little haywire.
Yep.
Look, I'm not going to compare James Hudson to Lawrence Taylor, but Lawrence Taylor was the ultimate rabid dog. And there were occasional times where he got a little rough and got a little overboard. It does happen with those kinds of players.
I think the timing was wrong because they, again, really, needed to start that game off on fire, and that really kind of put the team in hole.
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, but you wanted a little background on why you got to where you got.
How about the meltdown on the sideline?
Here's the problem. All right. So Hudson knows he's the backup. He's the third tackle. And he's only in there right now because Andrew Thomas is still nursing the rehab from his sore foot, his Lisfranc injury. So what does Thomas do? What does Hudson do? Hudson is trying to make use of his intangibles to prove that A, he belongs, and that B, Daboll was right to want him and to put him in the lineup. So he's getting a little rambunctious and a little over anxious. And we all know that the Giants in Dallas is a hot rivalry. God knows Brandon Jacobs used to fuel every ounce of blood in his body with hatred for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
So Hudson gets into this game, and right from the get-go, and by the way, just so you know, he got into a couple of sandpaper-type situations during training camp this year with fellow teammates. This is what he is like. He shoots his mouth off a lot, and he's not afraid to get rough around the edges, even with his own guys. That's what he is. In fact, both times when things got abrasive with his own teammates, people who were watching thought that it might actually turn into a real fight, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But he instigates. I don't know. You guys like hockey much?
Sure.
Yeah.
You remember Sean Avery of the New York Rangers?
Oh, my goodness. Do I know? Remember Sean Avery? He was under everybody's skin.
All right.
Agitator.
James Hudson is a Sean Avery type athlete.
Okay.
So, what happens? He gets beat by Hudson on a sack for 5 yards. His first bad play of the opening drive in Dallas.
Yep.
Okay. The blow to the head, I don't want to excuse anybody, but the blow to the head was actually accidental. It didn't look that way, but it was. Let me explain. First of all, I'm going to give you 2 explanations that I was given. Number 1 was from Brian Daboll. Number 2 was from a retired Giants offensive lineman who actually texted me right after the play happened and said,
good stuff.
"Oh no, I see what happened. It wasn't his fault, but God, it looks awful.
Fair enough.
So let me give you the two explanations.
Please.
Number one from Dable. The defensive lineman who was making his rush makes his rush. Hudson is going to set him up, and what he's trying to do is give him a whack on the shoulder to throw him off balance.
Yep.
The Dallas lineman kind of lost his footing a little bit and lowered his upper torso.
Yeah,
when he lowered his torso and Hudson's in the middle of the whack, the shoulder now becomes the head.
Yep, makes sense.
Bang! So Dable, at least publicly to the media, he wasn't absolving it. He says, look, it's a penalty. You still can't get around that. But he was understanding a little bit about how it happened.
Yeah, trying to whack him in the shoulder to throw him off balance. He's already off balance, so his pad level is just a little bit lower than it should be, and you wind up glancing off the top of his helmet.
Bingo. Now, the lineman who texted me said to me, Hudson executed perfect technique on the play, and he didn't realize that the Cowboys lineman had lost his balance a bit and had lowered his torso. He didn't realize that part of it. He just simply said to me, he missed his shoulder. He was obviously swinging for his shoulder. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the correct technique. He missed and clocked him in the head. So
sounds like a David Deal thing to say.
I'm not going to tell you who it was, but it was not David Deal. It was not David Deal.
Okay.
I know a lot of guys, Craig. It's been 43 years, okay? I know a lot of guys.
1983, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That is correct. So I got that text message at the game while it was happening. So while it was disgusting and it looked horrible, I think a lot of people trying to put his picture on the post office wall for that penalty is probably a little bit unjustified.
Yeah, if he's upright and he hits him in the shoulder, you throw that guy off balance. No, but we're not even talking about it today.
That's correct. All right.
Yeah,
so
and I've seen Trey Smith do it too. Like that same technique. I commented on a thing where Trey Smith did the same thing. So linemen do that. You're right, Paul. Linemen do that. Try to get him in the shoulder.
All right. But here's where it gets really ugly for him. So he then gets hit with a false start penalty. The personal foul, which is inexcusable, that comes next, as you know. I mean, there was just absolutely no reason to grind into the Cowboys player. And then another false start. So what I counted for him was he had 5 bad plays on the first drive. And I'm going to count the sack as a bad play because they lost 5 yards on the sack.
Yep.
So the 5 bad plays on the drive, if you count the 15-yard penalty on the blow to the head, plus the 11 yards that they lost on the run because of the flag, he actually cost them a total of 56 yards all by himself.
Man.
On the drive. Now, I'd like to finish up something about this drive before we finish the Hudson story. You'll remember that Bozeman got called for a holding penalty on the kickoff return by Olszewski to start the drive.
Yes.
Well, that holding penalty negated 48 yards of the kickoff return. Slayton got called for a hold on a big run by Tyrone Tracy.
Kind of ticky-tack that one, but I got you.
It was. That cost them 25 yards in yardage, considering the hold plus the play.
Yep.
So in all, the Giants lost a total of 124 penalty yards on 6 plays.
Jeez.
The entire drive went 16 plays and 60 yards and resulted in a field goal. You tell me how unique this game was that was played in Dallas yesterday. All right. Now, let's go back to Hudson.
Yeah.
So Hudson obviously gets removed after the drive, and they put in Marcus Bowe, the 5th-round pick out of Purdue. The kid has shown a lot of promise in training camp. You saw him in the preseason. He looks good. They really, really like him a lot as a guy who can maybe compete for a starting job next year. You know, Illuminor's contract is up. And if he winds up getting big money to jettison and go somewhere else, they need another tackle. Or if
Can
Andrew
Bo
Thomas
play guard, Paul?
I think they're looking at Bo as a possible tackle. Now, that doesn't mean he can't transition to guard. He certainly has that capability. A lot of scouts think he's going to be a better guard.
Yeah.
But there are some who think he can tow the boat at tackle. So if Thomas winds up continuing on this path of injuries, or if Illuminor leaves, I think Bo's going to get a shot at one of those tackle spots next year. They think that highly of him. So anyway, he goes in. And of course, Hudson, being the feisty guy that he is, he gets into a little bit of a, sandpaper screaming match on the bench. But to Brian Dable's credit, he made the move, he pulled him out of the lineup, and he went with the kid, and the kid did okay.
Yeah, sure did.
Now, can I tell you specifically what was said on the bench? No, I cannot do that. There are certain things that, I cannot talk about, obviously.
Sure.
But do I understand where Hudson's mentality was and why he is like he is? I do. Now, I do want to mention one thing to you because I did talk about this earlier on the Big Blue kickoff program earlier this morning. I was looking at James Hudson's overall track record to see, because I didn't know much about Hudson until the Giants signed him. I looked at some tape and I was like, okay, whatever. He's a backup tackle. There was nothing there that necessarily stood out for me.
Okay.
But what I did do, all right, I did take a look. And I wanted to see, and I'm going to call this up now on my laptop. He has not had a huge propensity for getting flagged for penalties during his career. And most of the penalties he's been called for were false starts.
Okay.
They weren't of the aggressive,
unnecessary roughness, yeah.
Right. They weren't of the aggressive, violent behavior type. So, to be honest with you, I was still surprised at him being a little bit over the edge, if you will, even though I understand his personality and I know where his mind is going and what he's thinking of. I still didn't think that, this was something we would necessarily see, but it happened. And I would assume that because Bo played well, that if Thomas does not go this week, I would assume that Bo's going to get a shot to play left tackle. Now, here's the numbers. In 49 starts before coming to the Giants, Hudson had 17 total penalties called against him. 7 were of the false start variety. 2 were of holding. And the chart that I have does not indicate the breakdown of the other penalties. But again, false start was almost half his penalties. So
yeah, and he doesn't hold, and he's not a lineman that has a propensity to hold.
No. So, all I can say is it was disappointing to see, because you hate to see a guy, kind of lose his composure like that. And certainly the drive was short-circuited because this was a drive, folks. Remember something. The Giants only had 1 touchdown on 5 red zone trips yesterday. And that was the first one. They should have been blowing the Cowboys out at halftime. This should not have been a game in the fourth quarter. The Cowboys should never have been close enough to kick a 64-yard field goal to send this game to overtime. The Giants were the better team. They've got the more complete roster. And they did enough of things to keep Dallas in the game and basically let it get away.
Well, that's a good segue to what Sean and I were talking about right before you jumped on is, the O-line looked really, really overmatched against Washington. They come out much better against the Cowboys, Paul. The question is, and Sean, jump in here, what do we got to do to get this running game going? Now, Scatterboo looked good, right? But, and we don't want to put, Tracy in a bad light, but I guess he maybe voiced his opinion on the play calling. He didn't get the same snaps that he got Sean, what were we talking about a couple minutes ago before Paul jumped on?
Yeah, I mean, with Tracy not getting in, I mean, there was a couple of things that you notice, and I mean, part of they went pass heavy in that game, which doesn't give the defense a lot of time to rest. It doesn't wear down the opposing defense, and then Tracy, maybe because of his comments, Singletary starts off the game, Scatterable comes in after. Like it was just like weird things of like Singletary getting the start didn't kind of add up, and then you had Singletary getting in the first series of overtime. They're running a screen pass to him. Like, how can you talk about that? Can you talk about where the run game is, why they're not doing much with the run game at this point, Paul?
They're looking right now at matchups. In particular, one of the things that they did this week, and it surprised everybody on the beat because we had not necessarily sniffed this out. They used Tracy as their primary kickoff returner yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had him back there with Olszewski. From what we had seen, and the Giants had not been hiding this, Wan'Dale Robinson was the guy most likely to be back there with Olszewski as the two-man kickoff return team. And then, Robinson got tweaked a little bit last week, and everybody was kind of wondering, well, who's going to be the other guy back there with Olszewski? And most of us thought it was going to be Devin Singletary. So it was quite a surprise when we found Tracy as the other guy back there. Now, Dable was specifically asked about this today, and he said, no, we didn't bench Tracy because of his comments. We didn't give him fewer snaps because of his comments. There were two things that were at play here. Number one was the matchup and the land of the unknown with Scatterboo for sure. Now, he didn't expand on this. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a liberty here. One of the things that Scatterboo provided the Giants against Dallas was the land of the unknown. All they got is college tape on him. They don't really have any NFL tape on him. They have a lot on Tracy. Right. One of the things that Dable wanted to use yesterday, and I say this because he did it with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart was inserted into the game for 3 periodic plays for no other reason. It had nothing to do with Russell Wilson, and it had nothing to do with Jackson Dart. Dart was inserted into the game just to play head games and to throw the Dallas Cowboys off their mojo.
Confusion.
That's all it was. Run him out to the field, see Dallas get all flustered. Maybe they make a substitution. Maybe the guys are thinking a little bit like, oh my God, and they hesitate, and you hit him with a play. He was playing mind games with the Cowboys. And I do think that Scatterboo was part of that. Now, he didn't say that part, but I think it was. I'm taking a little leap of faith here. He did say, however, that putting Tracy back there on kick returns, and he said, look, you saw what Dallas did. They were avoiding Olszewski. They were kicking the ball to Tracy. Tracy did a really nice job on kick returns, I thought, yesterday.
He did.
And Coach said flat out, he had some nice returns, and he was trying hard, and he was getting gassed and winded. So he'd come off the field on kick returns. They were not going to run him right back out there and put him in the backfield. So they would try to do a little load management with Tracy as well. So I'm going to take one other leap of faith here. And that is, did you see the block that Scatterboo threw last week in Washington when he picked up the blitzer?
Yep.
Well, I think, I don't know this, again, I'm taking a little bit of a leap. I think the Giants thought that maybe, just maybe, Dallas might change things up and blitz a little more than they did last week against Philadelphia. And I think they were very encouraged by Scatterboo, who is certainly, I don't want to say fearless, but he's pretty close to fearless about taking anybody on. I mean, look, the guy ran into telephone poles as a kid. So he's not going to worry about taking on a football player who's charging after his quarterback. That's not to say that Tracy won't do it, but I feel much more comfortable with Scatterboo, who is obviously eager for any kind of contact he can get his hands on. I think that might have been part of it too. So don't read anything into the Tracy comments. Okay. At least Dable is saying that himself, and I believe him, because I do think there are some other small items that I just revealed to you that I think had a part in the decision.
Okay.
Chris was, jump in here. We were talking about the offensive line 2 weeks ago. We need to get this running game going, Paul. It's only going to last so long that you're throwing 30 times, 35 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, we were talking about how JMS, he may lose his position to Van Roten at some point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thought personally, I thought the offensive line looked a lot better than what we saw against the Commanders, which I was kind of shocked. I mean, you insert Marcus Bowe, and it seemed like it brought some stability to the offensive line compared to what we saw with James Hudson. Paul, I gotta ask you a question because you had said something that made me think. I don't want to go back to the whole Scatterboo Tracy thing, but you had mentioned that teams have film on Tyrone Tracy. But what if they have even more film on Devin Singletary, who's been in the league longer and has more film out there? So wouldn't it help this offense to get Tracy involved in the passing game and in the running game too, especially in the screen game?
I'm a big Tyrone Tracy fan, but he did have fumbleitis last year. I think you guys are well aware of that.
Yes,
he did have some trouble holding on to the ball. And while he hasn't shown any issues with that over the course of the summer, the truth of the matter is maybe they also felt a little bit queasy about Dallas going for the ball, and they decided, you know what? Maybe we just want to play it safe. That's another guess on my part. But going into the season, if there were two things that I wanted to see Tyrone Tracy improve on as a guy who ran for 900 yards last year, I wanted to see him be more assertive and instinctive in taking it upfield. He was still new to the running back position, relatively new, okay? Relatively. And this year, in training camp, talking to him, he said he felt more confident, he felt more instinctive, he felt more assertive about taking the ball upfield, hitting that hole quicker, hitting that hole harder, and trying to make something out of it. He said last year he was still thinking a little too much as he was trying to run through the hole. And
I remember that quote. I remember that quote, him saying last year it was kind of like making it up as he went along. And this year he's way more confident of where he should be at what time and more confidence in what holes to hit, when to look to bounce it.
Exactly.
I remember that quote. I think the bigger question is, I think it's even past the Scatterboo Tracy thing is regardless of who's back there, this offensive line needs a shot in the arm somewhere, and I don't know what it is because at some point, Paul, they're going to have to run the ball.
Yep.
They can't abandon the run. At some point, they're going to just have to run the ball. And right now, it doesn't look like we can get any forward push. So, and Sean is a huge Brasillo fan. He was, singing in the rain when Brasillo came over.
So am I.
So
it seems like they've had some good runs, Paul. Like they just is. I don't want to sound bad here, but it's like Kafka pass happy right now. Like, because Tracy had a couple good runs, Scatterboo had some really good runs. There were some things going on. Like,
I think the problem is here. Yes, in concept, Craig, you're 1,000% right. They've got to be a balanced offense because Russell Wilson specializes in the play action pass. He's one of the best play action quarterbacks in this league. He does that very well, and he does the moon ball very well. Those are his two strongest parts, all right, besides obviously reading defenses because he's been doing that for 14 years. So the Giants have to be. They've got to be balanced over the course of the season if they're going to give him the best chance to succeed. Okay, so I agree with that. But I think the problem is here, you're reacting too much on just 2 games and a small sample size. The game in Washington, was horrific.
Oh.
It was what I call a skunk. Okay? Yeah. The game in Washington was a skunk.
Yeah.
Brian Burns was terrific. Okay? Brian Burns was terrific. Who else?
Against the Commanders? Nobody.
Okay. That was not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. Okay? So I'm really trying not to even digest that as I talk about this team now because that was just such a skunk.
Right.
What I saw yesterday was a little bit better. The protection was better in the pass, no question. It was better. The pass protection was better. And I thought the run blocking was somewhat functional. It still needs to be better. I'm not going to disagree with you, Craig. It does need to be better. But
I just don't.
It was much improved since game one. And
sometimes,
here's what
Paul,
I will say.
And we can bounce off this topic, but I guess when people are having issues, I don't ever see them like giving help. You don't see a lot of 2 tight end sets, or you don't see some heavy. I feel like they're letting them go. What's the word? Mano a mano, and they're losing a lot of them battles. Like somehow they have to impose their will at some point during this season, or you can't win enough games. Because if you're throwing the ball 80 times, 80% of the times, you won't win regardless. You just won't.
I'm on record as saying Russell Wilson should not be throwing the ball 35 times a game. Yeah, that's not the way the Giants are going to win. If they're going to be competitive this season throughout the year, he cannot be throwing the ball 35, 37, 40 times. That's not the way it's going to work. But this matchup, because of the deficiencies in the Dallas pass rush and in their secondary, this matchup was basically begging you to throw the ball.
Yeah, and that's
what they did.
And that's the great segue is like he's just shined. He didn't, it wasn't like he started off slow. He looked good from the beginning, first quarter, right to the end of the game. I mean, yes, the interception was ill-timed, no doubt about it. But he showed me that he has a little magic left in there, because it was a significant change from Washington to Dallas. And you're right. Definitely a different pass rush, definitely a different type of front four. But, I think pretty much all Giants fans right now are pretty happy with what Russ brought to the table. Any insight on, just what Russ looked like when he got here to where he is now? Because he's put Sean and I have talked about this at nausea, that he's created a whole different attitude on the team. Like there's way more positivity. There's way more fun being had. He's upbeat. He believes in this team. He wanted to be here last year. We all know he wanted to be here in 2024. So what's your thought on like what you saw in camp all the way through? Finally did a little bit of a coming out party yesterday.
From the moment Russell Wilson walked on to Giants campus, this is the guy who I have seen practice. Look, Russell Wilson is going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. We all know that. He's, much like Eli's going to go, Russell's going to go. I know it may take a little while, but they're both going to wind up in there one day. From the moment that Russell Wilson got here, I have seen probably 98% of his practices. Okay? From the minute he signed as a free agent. I can honestly tell you, if the man had 2 or 3 bad practices, his bad practices were probably better than 85% of the guys in this league. That's how good he has looked since the moment he stepped on to East Rutherford soil. This guy has looked sensational. He came in the best shape of his career. Brian Dable did the research and checked on him when he got here. Wilson is, first of all, he's cut out of stone. He does not an ounce of body fat on him. It's ridiculous. And he is at his lightest playing weight of his career.
Really?
Yes, at age 36.
Yeah. Yep.
How about that?
Impressive.
He took this seriously. He knows. There were not a lot of calls for him. It was the Giants and the Browns, the only 2 teams that called him during free agency. So he knows that he's on the back 9. Okay? He gets that. And he knows how disrespected he was last year in Pittsburgh. Had trouble with the offensive coordinator, obviously. There were circumstances down the stretch in Pittsburgh between the defenses they played, between some of the nasty weather they were in. The fact that his wide receiver room wasn't very good and banged up. They didn't get good balance in the run-pass mix. There were a lot of things that went wrong. And he was written off by probably 85% of the NFL. So Russell Wilson, when he came to the Giants, wanted to make a point that, hey, No, I'm still Russell Wilson. Don't shove me in a closet. So he came here motivated, big time, to prove that he is still a high-level quarterback. Part of that translates into his rationale, which is a high tide raises all boats. Russell Wilson has gone out of his way, ever since he got to East Rutherford, to talk up and to boost every single position room in that locker room. He goes around to guys on defense, other guys at other positions on offense, and he's constantly talking them up. He's setting examples for them in the weight room. He's setting examples for them when they go to dinner, when they had their passing camp during the summer, when they were away from the team. He is doing everything he can to set an example, knowing that this Giants locker room, has very few guys who have been to the playoffs and even fewer guys who have been to a Super Bowl. He knows they're looking up to him. He knows that they're looking to him for leadership and they're looking to him for direction. So he came in here saying to himself, if I can be the guy to get every one of these guys believing in themselves, believing in each other, and I can raise the level somehow, if I can raise the level of everybody in the room, that's going to help me too. Because now I can perform at my best if they're performing at their best, and maybe we can actually make something out of this season. That was his mentality. And he has done everything he can to try to raise the level of all the boats in the room. That's the guy that you're seeing. I saw it the entire offseason, the entire training camp, and the entire preseason. And that's why I've been telling people on all the shows that I've been on, do not sleep on this guy. I watch him every day. I've seen it. This is not a mirage. He can still make all the throws. He still has mobility, not as fast as he used to be. He's obviously lost half a step. But between his desire to prove to everybody that he can still do it, and it wasn't just words, he put it into action. I believe the guy. I think he's got a good year left in him. I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah. Let me ask, before we go into like a negative topic, which we're going to cover the other side of the ball, one of the guys you mentioned about him raising the boat for other people, one of the guys he did yesterday, and he did in game 1 too, is, Wan'Dale Robinson had his breakout game yesterday. What'd you kind of see from him? Like, and Craig will tell you, Christian will tell you, this is a guy I've been singing the praise of since they drafted him. I know he gets a lot of undue criticism at times, and I felt like he could be what he was yesterday. So what have you seen from Wan'Dale that led us to say, yeah, this is what he can do consistently, aside from just having Russ as his quarterback?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, the Giants have made it a point during this offseason to give Robinson some more opportunities to get downfield as opposed to just becoming the short check down valve.
Oh, thank
Or
God.
the gadget receiver, if you will.
Right.
The wide receiver screen, the little dump off, the circle screen. I mean, I get it, but when the guy can't even average 10 yards a catch, there's a problem. Especially when they kept telling us that he was going to be a yak monster. That doesn't work. So they have done a good job during the course of the summer of giving him a playbook that's going to allow him to catch the ball in not only different spots than what he used to do, but also further downfield so that defenses are not going to be able to pack in against him. Too many times when you'd see Wan'Dale Robinson, even when he caught 90 balls last year, how many contested catches would he have? Or how many times if he caught the ball, there was a guy within 8 inches of him, and he wasn't going to get yak yardage because they were breathing down his neck already.
Yeah, all short underneath the sticks.
Right. And God knows, because the Giants weren't able to successfully get the ball downfield, defenses were cheating up anyway. So that's going to hurt a guy like Robinson, who was supposed to be a short yardage catch guy who was going to get yak. You're not going to get that if everybody is starting to pack up to the line of scrimmage. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've been hard on him, Paul. I've been really hard on him because
I understand.
He's not big. He takes a lot of hits. They throw to him underneath all the time. And I don't know how long you can take a lot of hits in the NFL when you're his size.
Yeah, I understand the perception. Now, what I will say this, he is a tough cookie. He is. He is a tough cookie. He's not afraid of anybody. He will take the hits, and he will bounce back, and he's got some grit about him. Got some moxie, too. Now, in addition to getting him in different spots and getting him downfield a little bit more, the other key to this is that, my God, he now has a quarterback who's actually going to pinpoint and put the ball exactly where it needs to be so that he does have the ability to get that perfect pass while he's in stride, catching it in exactly the right part of his route so that he can continue with his momentum and get some of that yardage. He also has more speed than people have given him credit for because the Giants have always run him on those short routes.
Never see it.
To be honest with you, I think the Cowboys were shocked when he blew by their secondary yesterday. They're like, wait a minute. He's not supposed to be that fast.
No,
that's
2 years
the Giants
you've never
hadn't
seen
let
him.
you seen that before.
Exactly.
No,
there you go.
He's like a 4.46 40, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and remember, Sean, it's play speed. I hate when people quote 40s because play speed is much more important than the combine 40 time.
Yep.
And he's got good play speed. So,
absolutely.
Look, and it's not even all about Daniel Jones. Think about it. Jones was hurt the last couple of years. How many quarterbacks, and quite frankly, substandard quarterbacks, did Robinson have to catch passes from?
Too many.
Too many. Too many. So, Craig, yes, I do believe that you're going to see the best out of Wan'Dale Robinson this year. And we certainly saw a real nice glimpse of it yesterday.
Craig, if I may interject really quick.
Yeah, okay.
Paul, you may not remember. I know you speak to a lot of people on a daily basis. I called into Big Blue Kickoff one time, and then I saw you streaming as well, and I jumped into the stream, and we kind of spoke like this, how we're speaking right now. And I had asked you about Wan'Dale, where I said, with the addition of Russ, and this was right before the season had started, going into preseason. I had said, with the addition of Russ, is it possible that we could see Wan'Dale be used like Doug Baldwin was over in Seattle? And I think going back and watching that game yesterday, you saw, I mean, if I don't know if you guys watched a lot of Seattle games back in the day, but Doug Baldwin, I mean, his play style, to me at least, is kind of similar to Wan'Dale Robinson. And, I had this whole tweet thread going into this year where I said, we need to start attacking Wan'Dale downfield. He can get it done. Was yesterday an aberration? Was this something like a mirage? Or is this what Brian Dable and Kafka want to implement with Wan'Dale going forward? He's not just a guy.
They spent the whole summer. Trying to see what they could do with Russ Wilson's input. Remember, Wilson gets here, and what does Dable do? The first thing they do, Dable studies Wilson's stuff from the past, sits down with Wilson, and coordinates with him and says, look, this is what I like to do. This is what I've seen you do on tape. Tell me about you. Tell me about what you like to do, what you don't like to do. Let's see if we can mix this stuff together, make a mishmash, and Dable understanding, let's face it, we all know the sense of urgency he's got this year. So he was smart enough to say, Russell Wilson's 14 years in the league. The guy's won a Super Bowl. He's been to a second. He's been to 10 Pro Bowls. Yeah, it makes sense to give him some input here. And one of the things that Russell Wilson told him was, I can make Malik Neighbors even better. I can make Wan'Dale Robinson a real threat. He also told him, I think I can make Jalen Hyatt a threat. Now, that hasn't worked out so far because the kid hasn't played. I don't understand that, so let's not even go there because I don't get it. But it is clear, it is very clear that the cooperative input between the coach, obviously Mike Kafka also has had part of this, but using Russell Wilson's experience and his preferences, which do coincide with the change of usage of both Robinson and Neighbors, is something that I think the Giants are banking on as one of the reasons why they believe they can be a more explosive team.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, because we saw a game from Malik Neighbors that we've been wanting to see. I mean, to have 160 plus yards and 2 touchdowns, what should have been the nail in the coffin with that beautiful moon ball from Russ to Neighbors. I mean, you got to be excited. I mean, I don't know about you guys in the chat, but I'm personally excited to see Malik Neighbors this year. I have said I thought he could get 1,500 yards, maybe even 1,600 yards. But I mean, I just, even with the loss yesterday, I was very, very pleased with what I saw from Malik, because it's going to take more than 2 men to stop this dude. Like, seriously.
Christian, 37 points. You can't, even with the meltdown from Hudson, right? 37 points. I don't know about you. I've been watching this team a long time. It's been years since we went into Dallas and scored 37 points. So, yeah. I think everybody's like, this is not an Sunday, right? Yesterday, 24 hours ago, this was not an offensive problem, right? I mean, did it take a little while to get them going? Yes, right? That's what happens when you shoot yourself in the foot with all those penalties. But 37 points, Christian, 37 points in Dallas. The segue here, and Sean's chomping at the bit up there, is they, all of us, whatever it is, need to figure out what's going to make this defense work, because you can't give up 40 points. You can't play this soft zone that they played yesterday. They have Paul. As Sean said, you are the pillar of positivity. But I gotta, and Carl Banks kind of said that the players got to play, so he put some onus back on the players, which I appreciate. I'm definitely one of those guys. I've tweeted it many times that, like, you can blame the coaching all you want. They don't tackle, they don't throw, they don't catch, they don't run on Sunday. So players still have to play. But I'm gonna flip that upside down for you, Paul. Sean and I were talking about it literally seconds before you jumped on, that guys like Schwartz and guys like McDermott and guys like Spags wouldn't let that happen yesterday. Belichick would not let that happen yesterday. Way too soft of a zone when you got the middle of the field is wide open, right? And you got a kicker that can kick 64 yards, Paul. You can't give them the middle of the field. It's just 2 weeks in a row where I feel like, and again, I'm not asking you to kill him. I know you won't. But it's a little asleep at the wheel, Paul. Like when you've got Tibbs and Carter and Dex, and Burns, I think there should have been some urgency to win that game. And I got to put a little bit of it on, or actually, I'm putting a lot of it on Bowen. So help me understand what it looked like, because I don't know many people that sat back and go, yeah, that was the right scheme to have in overtime.
All right, so what do you want me to address? The Ferguson catch, or do you want me to address the Pickens catch in OT, or the Ferguson catch in the fourth quarter?
You can start in the fourth. Yeah, start anywhere you want, but let's just chronologically start in the fourth quarter.
All right. The scheme was correct. Okay? Scheme was correct. I don't know where it got lost in translation, but if you watch it, I was on the sideline. I saw what they were doing. The scheme was accurate. Brian Dable had said last week that with their kicker, the line of demarcation is the 50-yard line, because you know he's got the ability to hit 60 plus. So we know 50 is where you got to hold them to the 50. The players themselves told me in the locker room after the game, and even today in a media conference call, that they understood that the 50-yard line was the line. That was the line in the sand, the 50-yard line. Now, if you want to talk about the Ferguson catch, the 18-yard catch to the Giants 49, you need to go back and look at the video. Now, 2 things are in play here. Number 1 is, I believe, and let me just give you the exact number here because it is relevant. I believe the Dallas Cowboys ran 83 offensive snaps. Did they not? Yes, they did. They ran 83 offensive snaps.
That's a lot.
I'm going to tell you, being on the sideline, the Giants defense was gassed. Okay, I'm going to tell you flat out. 83 defensive snaps in a game of this nature, when you're running up and down the field all over the place, and specifically against a quarterback who was credited for 52 attempts, but if you include scrambles and you include sacks, I think he dropped back 57 or 58 times. So think about your pass rush, okay? Not only were they gassed, but the transmission was probably jammed. So, and I can tell you that's the way it was at the end of the fourth quarter. Those guys were spent. It was an inordinate number of pass rushes, an inordinate number of snaps, not to mention an incredibly grueling, emotionally and mentally draining game. There's no question about any of that stuff. Right. So it was incredibly difficult at that point to get a pass rush on Prescott. And if there's one thing we know about Dallas, and I'm not that impressed with their team, I'm just not. But what do they have? They have Dak Prescott, who becomes an all-universe quarterback anytime he plays the Giants. And against everybody else, he's just Clark Kent. But he kills the Giants. He's got a terrific tight end in James Ferguson. A guy who, when he was coming out of school, you probably remember, I was lobbying for the Giants to get him.
Yep.
Two terrific receivers in Pickens and Lamb. It is a very, very explosive offense, especially a passing game offense. So they were climbing Mount Everest all afternoon to try to keep this thing under control and to try to hold on to the lead, because the offense did not build up enough of a cushion like they should have. So let's put that responsibility on those guys, and let's understand the curve that you have to grade this defense on at the end of the fourth quarter when there was no more gas in the tank. So let's just put that on the plate. Now, as far as the catch by Ferguson, they're playing a shell, an umbrella coverage, one of Tom Landry's specialties when he was the Giants defensive coordinator back in the 50s. I mean, this is not new. Everybody knows the kind of umbrella coverage that he was playing. The players were told that the 50-yard line is the line. I have absolutely no idea why they backed up as much as they did when the ball was snapped.
Yeah, 100%.
I put that on Bowen, though.
I know the coaches told them, because the players admitted it afterwards. So whose fault is that? Is that Bowen's fault? I have a hard time blaming the coach for that when you watch, you know they were told by Dable during the week, and then the players even admitted it afterwards. So whose fault is that? Explain to me when you watch the play. Go back and look at it. If you have NFL Plus, which I do, so I always watch the coaches' tape, the high 50 and the all 22. Go back and look at it. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, except for one thing. They're playing the perfect shell coverage, but they're too deep. They went too soft. Yeah. What would make those guys line up 5 yards deeper than they're supposed to? I don't understand it. Okay,
someone's got to see it, though. Someone's got to see it and communicate.
Okay, well, here's the killer. Ferguson releases from the right side of the offense.
Yep.
He runs a straight path right to the star, to the 50-yard line. Prescott's looking at him the whole way. Bobby Okereke is the middle linebacker. He's in underneath coverage. He's off a little bit, offset to the right of the Giants defense. Instead of being in the middle, I think he was shading a little bit to the right because he thought he might have to help on that side of the field a little. But when the play is snapped, what Bobby should have done was immediately reacted. As you see Ferguson release, he should have immediately reacted to take more of a step towards Ferguson. Because as the Cowboys were running their routes, it was clear what Ferguson was going to do. And there was nobody except Okereke who was going to be able to cut off a pass underneath in the route that Ferguson was running. It's very clear. So Okereke he comes over late and he doesn't get enough depth in his drop. He was a guy who actually should have been back a couple of more yards. So he's too shallow and he's offset a little bit. By the time he recognizes what Ferguson is doing, it's too late for him to get over. In the meantime, the guy who was playing center field is Dane Belton.
Yeah.
Belton, for some reason, at the snap,
backpedal.
Backs up to the Giants' 46-yard line. Guys, they were told the 50. He backs up to the Giants' 46. So what does Ferguson do? He makes a beeline for the star. He's behind Okereke, who takes a bad angle and is too slow to get there. And he's in front of Belton, who suddenly decides to charge on the pass. But because he's at the Giants' 46, he doesn't get there until after Ferguson catches the ball at the star and now lands on the Giants' 49-yard line.
Yep.
Now, if Belton was at the 50, instead of backing up to the Giants' 46, he probably defends the pass and knocks it down.
I would hope, Paul, that, and I agree with everything you're saying. What I think what the fan base is upset about is you're talking about 2 or 3 plays. They should have been more aggressive throughout the game. Like the middle of the field.
Craig, they played a lot of man. They did not play a lot of zone yesterday. Now, I don't have the numbers because I don't subscribe to these analytic services. I believe my eyes because the tape doesn't lie. Believe what you see, not what some mathematician tells you. But I'm telling you, watch the game. You will see they played a lot more combination coverages and a lot more man. Adebo was on Pickens for most of the game.
That's why Banks was
did a pretty good job on him, too.
Sean, how many catches did Ferguson have yesterday? He was lighting it up.
Yeah, I don't remember what he had.
Ferguson had 9 catches for 78 yards, 8.7 per catch. His long was 19.
I mean, tight ends always kill the Giants for years now, no matter who the coach is. Let me ask this, Paul. I want to follow somebody who's played and coached. Let me kind of ask, and I understand exactly what you're saying, right? We've talked about, and fans have worried about attention to detail sometimes with the coaching staffs over the last several years. So looking at it, they were lined up at the 50-yard line to start.
Correct.
Would that not come from a coaching staff or somebody, whether it's Bowen, whether it's the secondary coach, to say, because we see other teams doing it. I think that's fair to say. They see something on the sideline, they're yelling to the players, move up, move back, whatever it is. Maybe I missed it. You were on the sideline. Was anybody telling them they were back too far to start with? Because a lot of them in that shell were lined up at the 50 and then backpedaled. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, which, by the way, makes no sense, Sean. That makes no sense, right?
We were hoping that somebody would tell them.
The target is the 50, so there's either a miscommunication, misunderstanding, which is fine. But then if you see it during the game, again, I understand where you're coming from, what you can and can't say. I just feel like a lot of fans are seeing it, but like, why isn't the coach saying you're back too far, move up, and don't stand at the 50, right?
I'm on the Giants sideline.
Captain too. There's a defensive captain on there that can also notice, right? Whether it's Newbin.
Yeah, but he's already too shallow. I get it, but
there's no way Okereke can see that.
Yeah, and we see other teams' coaching staff do that all the time with lining up. So again, I'm not trying to put the onus solely on the coaching staff because I agree. Players, you're back deep, and you know that the line is the 50. If you're lining up on the 50, then you don't backpedal on the snap. I get that, right? But I also can we put some? Yeah, could we put some on the coaching staff to say they were lined up too deep to start with?
You notice
they shouldn't have been at the 50 to start with. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what I'll say. I don't know. Again, I don't know. At that point, is that something that they yelled out or not? I can't say because I'm on the line of scrimmage. You see, I'm on the Giants sideline when I'm down on the field, and I'm usually either in one of two places. Either I'm the line of scrimmage or I'm far downfield ahead of the play, seeing it from behind the secondary so I can see the play coming to me. Those are the two places I'm going to be. So I am nowhere near the heart of the bench where the coaches are. So in answer to your question, I have no idea if any of the coaches were trying to communicate something to the players at the snap. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I just don't. I'm not privy. I was not privy to it.
Can I just add something here real quick, Paul, in regards to this defense? One thing that I noticed throughout the game, which we saw, against Washington, was bad tackling. It looked at moments like they were undisciplined. And I understand that, the coaches can only do so much, but shouldn't that fall on the coaches, to make sure? And even with Brandon Aubrey, I understand that, that they're keeping the 50 in mind. I would push it even further back. You have a legitimate weapon at kicker who that 64-yarder, it could have been 70.
How long have you been watching Giants football?
Hey, I'm almost 30 now, so I don't got
Here's
it.
What I'm telling you. Here's what I'm telling you. He would have made it from 85 yards just to screw the Giants. Okay?
Yeah. We got the record of most 60-yard field goals to end a game, I think, right?
Yes.
So it's
knew
it was going to happen. So
that's why I wanted it more aggressive. If you already know this cat can kick 65 to 70 yards, you got to be more aggressive because he's just going to beat you. Like, it should have been a tighter defense. And again, I'm with you, Paul. Listen, I always appreciate your insight. I'm just bent out of shape because it's 37 points. They had any time throughout that game to be more aggressive. They just weren't aggressive enough because they gave up 40 points. Yes, we are focused on the Ferguson catch and the Lamb catch at the end of the game. But anywhere during that period of time, I'm waiting for Dex and Burns and Tibbs and Carter to be on the field for a series of snaps. I'm waiting for safety blitzes and corner blitzes. And again, I know we're hamstrung at the middle linebacker spot. I just expected more in your face. I don't think Dak likes a lot of prep. He does a lot of dancing around, right? I just thought that what we're known for right now, coming through camp, was we have one of the top pass rushers, group.
I know.
So you know what? If you're gonna lose, go out by putting your by hitting the quarterback. If you're gonna lose, don't lose.
I get it.
Don't lose 40 points by playing prevent or soft.
I get it, Craig. I understand because in my heart of hearts, I'm always going to be a defensive coordinator, and I am one who likes the aggression. Okay?
Right.
I've always been that way. That's the way I'm built. I mean, I came up under Bill Belichick, so when he was DC with Parcells. John Fox was another one of my favorites.
Yeah, Nolan.
And obviously Spags.
Yep.
So you know where my blood lies.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm telling you, they were gassed.
Yeah.
In that fourth quarter. They were gassed.
All right,
but to their credit, they forced the Cowboys to punt twice in overtime.
Yes, they did.
Somehow, as gassed as they were, they found enough mustard to still take that sucker through 10 minutes of overtime until the final kick.
Yep.
I'm quite frankly amazed, to be honest with you, at how the defense held up in OT.
Agreed. I thought they were going to score that first drive with how gassed they were. You could see it, hands were on the thighs. Paul, I have a two-part question for you here because a couple of names that were brought up here. So first is, I know week one what probably was on his mind, but two parts here. Should we be concerned over Dexter Lawrence not really making the impact that we're used to seeing over the first 2 weeks? And then it was a huge increase from week 1 to week 2, but I still don't feel like 38, week 1, it was 8% that you had Dexter, Carter, Tibbs, and Burns on the field at the same time. This week was 38%. It was a 30% increase. That's good, but I don't feel like they're on the field enough together. So I'm concerned about that as well, but that's kind of the two-part. Like, Dex is not making the impact we're used to. Should we be concerned of that? And how do we get the core four that are supposed to be this dominant pass rush on the field together more? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's take that in two parts. First of all, Dexter Lawrence. Lawrence was limited throughout the course of the offseason in all of the practices that he participated in, and then did not play at all during the preseason. If you would listen to any of my shows at all in the last 2 weeks, I told everyone who would listen to me, he is going to need a month before he probably gets himself into Dexter Lawrence condition. He is not Dexter Lawrence right now. Okay? I thought he played a good game yesterday, but Dexter Lawrence is an all-universe player. He did not play up to his standards. And you know what? It was much better than game 1. And game 3 is going to be much better than game 2. But it may take him a full month to be Dexter Lawrence as we know him, because the Giants need him to be all-universe Dexter Lawrence. To be good Dexter Lawrence is not good enough.
Interception ends the game. Interception game ends the game. Needed him to catch it.
Now, I know. Now, the thing that's important to remember here is that the elbow injury that Dexter Lawrence had, there are many medical people, and I'm not going to give you anything specific about him or the Giants because I can't. But I do know sports medicine people who said to me that in order to get the full strength back in that elbow after a similar injury to what Dexter Lawrence had, it could take him a full 12 months till he is fully recovered and has full strength, flexibility, and everything that he needs to be that guy again. Well, think about when he got hurt last year, the middle of the season.
Yep.
So yes, he's playing. Yes, he's cleared to go. He's Dexter Lawrence and he's out there, but that doesn't mean like Joe Judge is playing for the Yankees right now. Judge is playing with a weak wing, but he's out there. He's DHing. He's playing a little outfield, but he's not the same guy.
Nobody in the NFL is 100%.
Okay, so understand that I warned people that the Giants, for the first 3 games, maybe even 4, this defense is going to take time. Dexter Lawrence is going to take time. Now, as far as your other question, I don't know specifically what Dable or Bowen want to do in terms of the snaps, the percentage breakups, how many times those 4 guys are on the field together. They're not disclosing that. I don't know it. But here's what I will say. I know that they are very much concerned with keeping the snap counts in line because they want Thibodeau to be fresh. They want Burns to be fresh. They don't want those guys playing 85% every single week. They do want to rotate them more than they have in the last couple of years. That's a fact. And if you're going to make Carter part of that rotation, then by definition, that means he can't be on the field with all of them together. That much I know. I know.
That's frustrating.
There is a concerted effort to get Burns and Tibbs some more time off because they believe that will increase the efficiency of the snaps that they're on the field with. The Giants believe that those 2 guys, Tibbs over the first 3 years of his career, and Burns, of course, has only been a Giant since last season, they've overextended them. And I understand it because if you watch the games, you see it. They give what they have. But those guys take a beating, especially Burns. Burns was doubled almost the whole game yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, really fought hard. And last year, he played through an assortment of injuries that most people don't even know about. And he was a Pro Bowl alternate. I love Brian Burns. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I that whole scenario confuses me because like it's early in the season. They can't be that. I mean, like they could be gassed after 85 snaps. That makes a lot of sense. But man, you drafted Carter as I'm looking in the chat here. You know, you drafted Carter, as Cold says, to hunt the QB. Like, gotta unleash these guys and punish and put your, and impose your will on people. Right? That's what made LT so great. That's what made Tuck so great. That what made OCU Manora so great. If we have these great guys, Paul, all I'm saying is, and you know it, you won't have to admit it, but again, Spags, Belichick, you want to go across the league and look at Schwartz or McDermott. If they were lucky enough to have a guy like Carter or like Parsons, Micah, you're going to let them go. The first 4 games of the year, first 6 games of the year, you're going to let these guys stretch their legs and you're going to let them go. I don't like it. I don't think that's going to help us win games, keeping them fresh. I mean, these are pro athletes. Yes, 85 snaps. I get it. But if we're going to win and have a chance to win, we're going to have to win on defense. And if you've got those 4 guys, Paul, you got to let them go. Like, and again, I'm not killing anybody. I'm just saying that if we take my humble opinion, like Sean said, from a guy who played and the guy who coached, you go with who you have at your disposal, only leaving them to like keeping them fresh for later. It might be too late.
I understand. Look, I don't need to repeat this, but I'm going to. I'm an aggressive DC by trade. That's the way I'm built. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you that I disagree or that I have a problem with what you're saying. I absolutely understand it, and I have a preference for it. But you asked me why it's going down as it is. I'm simply giving you the rationale. I'm not telling you that I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just venting, Paul.
We don't have to agree with the rationale, Paul, right? That's okay if we don't agree with the rationale. Is that all right?
Right? I mean, no, seriously. I mean, here's
the other thing.
Go ahead.
I was saying, here's the other thing, because now you have an opportunity, I believe, because I don't know. I apologize. I was very busy today, so I didn't hear the status update on Muasau. But you have an opportunity where McFadden's out, Muasau could possibly out, and you have a guy that did play inside linebacker for 2 years. That could solve the problem on getting all 4 of them on the field at the same time.
100%.
Would that make a lot of sense to put him at inside
here's the
linebacker?
Problem with that.
Okay, tell me.
During training camp, during the mini camp, et cetera, the Giants barely used Carter in that role. Okay. When they brought him here, when he reported as a rookie, they told him, okay, he's lined up in some 3 technique. You saw that during the preseason.
Yep.
I think you saw that some in camp. I don't know if you guys got the training camp at all.
Yeah.
But you saw some of that. They did use him in some of that. They did use him some as a stand-up defensive lineman a number of times. They also used him as an edge rusher. They've also used him in terms of, I'm talking about over the last few months, how I've seen him deployed. He's been used as a spy. He's been used occasionally on flat coverage. I've seen him even do that because he's got the skills to do it. But in terms of just a regular type of inside linebacker per se, that is not something. That is not something that they have concentrated with him on. They have given him a lot of different. What's the word I'm looking for here? They've given him some flexibility in terms of what they want to do with him. But the one thing they haven't done is said, okay, what do we think about having you and Bobby Okereke as the 2 inside linebackers? That's not something that they've done. So to ask him to play that now doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Do we have an update on McFadden?
On McFadden? No, he's on injury reserve.
Yeah, but
I mean, they're hopeful that he might be able to make it back by late in the season.
Okay. So what did he have a
foot
surgery on his foot?
To be honest with you, I don't know if he actually had surgery or not. I haven't seen Micah now for a good week, so I don't know if that has happened. But I do know that there was some optimism that he might make it back by late in the season. I mean, he's in his contract here. You know he's going to try to make it back.
Yeah, late as in November or late as in December?
No one has given me a calendar on that. I was just told late. They do hope to see him before the season's out.
Okay. Yeah, because that is you notice right away when he's not in there. And then, Musa did not have a great game last week when he wasn't there. I mean, he was his first, time getting that kind of action, but I can understand why they don't put Carter there because he hasn't got any snaps there. He hasn't any practice there. It would
be really
probably put him at a disadvantage.
It would almost be foolish to just throw him into that spot now when they really haven't worked him in that role.
Yep.
Other than blitzing, they line him by the inside linebacker to have him blitz.
That's it.
But
run it to the
I didn't know if they were
animal.
Right. I didn't know if they were talking to him once McFadden went down because I know he played it and played it well in college. So that's what I was asking. Like, all right, you can give a crash course a little bit to somebody like that for, a certain amount of snaps, I thought. But no, I appreciate
look,
it, Paul. Thanks.
is it possible that over the course of the next couple of weeks, knowing that McFadden is going to be, he's not coming back around the corner. So is it possible that they start working him in a little bit like that and give him some reps? And maybe at some point they try him out to do that? I guess that could happen. But at this point, the reason you haven't seen it is what I explained.
Yeah, because I was thinking of Micah Parsons. Dallas did that with him in his rookie year, had him all over the field, using different things. So it sounds like they didn't do it, which is a concern when you have somebody like that you maybe should have. So, no, I appreciate it. I thank you for answering that.
Well, Bowen, again, and you don't have to like or agree with what they did, but Bowen during the offseason knew that this kid was coming in, right? 3rd overall pick. Okay. What do we want to give him? How much do we want to give him? What types of things do we want to give him? And let's just take care of the rookie with this much on the playbook. And they spent X number of months now with these chapters of the playbook. And whether or not that's right or wrong, that's the way it's played out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. Christian, you got something for me?
Yeah. I mean, to kind of add to that, I mean, I thought that would be something that we would see, considering with Micah McFadden going out. And I know we're all talking about, the Ferguson situation and them playing soft. I mean, for me, what really stuck out was that last play where Dak took off down the field to pretty much ice the game. Carter wasn't on the field for that play. I went back and I was like, is Carter on the field on that play? And you had Kayvon and Brian Burns on the edge. And then in terms of linebackers in the back with Body, he wasn't back there either. So, I mean, I think that would have really helped them, having him on the field in those types of situations, knowing that you're, let's put it nice, not lacking a lot of depth at that position.
Well, Christian, I'll only say this, and I'm not defending it at all. And quite frankly, I did not make a big issue out of it that Carter was not on the field for that scramble. My problem was that Adebo, who had done I thought Adebo did a nice job on Pickens for most of the night. I really do. Even the touchdown pass that Pickens caught right in front of me inside the left pylon, Adebo was right there. It was a perfect throw and a terrific catch, and there was hardly any room inside the pylon and the sideline for them to make that play. So I thought Adebo did a nice job on Pickens, but it was that catch right before, let me go through my notes here. It was right before the scramble by Prescott. It was a pass to Pickens, first down from the Cowboys 31. Okay, and Pickens runs a crossing route from the left side, goes all the way across the field, and Adebo's trailing him. And to be honest, it's not like he's getting fried. I mean, he's in reasonably decent position. But, of course, what happens? Prescott with a perfect pass right where it needed to be, 27-yard gain, first down at the Giants' 37-yard line. To be honest with you, Christian, the second that play was made, I knew the game was over because there's no way that their kicker is going to miss a 54-yard field goal after he just made a 64-yard field goal. Right. So the scramble by Prescott, to me, was of absolutely no consequence.
I understand. I mean, and I felt that way prior on that same drive where Javonte Williams has a nice run, again, due to bad tackling.
Was it 19 yards?
Something like that, 18 or 19 yards.
I was like,
yards.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that cannot happen under any circumstance. Coming down to the final stretch of the game and you let a guy rip off 19 yards.
All right, that was on the previous drive, and it was a second and 29 from the Dallas 19, and Williams goes to the left edge. But you know what? It still sets up a 3rd and 11, and the Giants wound up having a terrific play by Drew Phillips, who also, in my opinion, Drew Phillips was the defensive MVP of the game. And I know he gave up a slant for a touchdown, but he had blanket coverage. Sometimes the other guys just make a play.
And he got hosed on that penalty, Paul. It was
I thought so too.
I mean, that was just, I don't really like to cry refs, but that was a terrible call. I mean, just as ticky-tack as it comes.
Well, for the game, we're complaining about all the penalties on the Giants, right? 14 for 160. Cowboys had 12 for 106.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
yeah.
That's
second half.
26 stinking
Yep.
penalties on both teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
holy
that
smokes. But
that
anyway,
crew is bad.
Phillips just pummels Tolbert on the right sideline after a 6-yard pass, and the Cowboys have to punt. So, to be frank with you, that Williams run was, again, not of any consequence.
I mean, I can understand it from that perspective. I mean, they should have never been in overtime to begin with, but that's a whole other
They should have
conversation.
blown them out, Christian.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
should have.
I agree with you.
All right. Well, here's the big segue. Sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I have nothing else to say. You're
Oh.
good.
Here's the big question. So you got a very desperate 0-2 Kansas City Chiefs coming to MetLife on Sunday. I'm sure they're going to pull out all the stops to get back on the right side. What do the Giants need to do differently? Because, again, we know how, again, you just talked about Ferguson. They got Kelsey, right? You got any team that has Mahomes is going to give you trouble, right? You got Spags, a real defensive coordinator. I didn't say that out loud. Sorry. What are the Giants are going to have to do? I almost want to ask you, but I don't want to be cliche, but what are the keys to the game on Sunday?
Well, I have not done my study on the Chiefs yet. I do that on Tuesday, to be honest with you. I will go back and I will dissect the Chiefs, and by Wednesday I'll have what would I play coach and coordinator every week. What I usually do is on Sunday night or Monday morning, I look at the game a second time. I look at the coach's tape, the 50, the high 50, the all 22. I mock up my charts. I have my own statistical charts that I keep that have nothing to do with the analytics people because I don't believe in them. I make my own.
There you go.
And I do what I do. And once I get that done on Monday, all right, now I got to dissect what happened. Now on Tuesday I move on and I start working on the opponent. So I will get into the Chiefs tomorrow. So I really don't want to answer that because I don't think it would be fair. I will tell you, somebody who did watch the Philadelphia Kansas City game told me that it's quite apparent that Kelsey is pretty much on his last legs, that he's just not the same player anymore, and he's really, kind of fading significantly. I also was told that the wide receiver core is not very impressive. We know that Rashee Rice obviously is suspended. That's a big deal. We know that Pacheco has not been the same since he came back from that significant injury. He's not the same back that he was a couple of years ago. So, and the offensive line, like many teams, has not performed up to the level that they need. So Mahomes is basically, he's a conductor not playing with a full orchestra, or at least the tuba, the trombone, and maybe a couple of the violins are busted. Okay, so he does not have his typical symphony that we've been used to seeing for a few years, and so this is why they're 0-2. And Spags, from what I understand as well, has done a really nice job with some limited resources on defense to do what he has done. And I'll always feel that way about Spags. He will always maximize whatever he's got on the roster. That's why I think, in all honesty, I truly believe if the Hall of Fame ever decides that they're going to reward some coordinators who have contributed a significant amount of success to this game, I think Spags is one of those guys I'd like to see in that wing if they ever get around to doing it.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
We might
So I
have
have a
to
tongue-in-cheek question for you here, Paul, because we talked about the rest of the Cowboys. So 0-2 Chiefs team, Sunday Night Football. Not a scouting report, but how concerned do we need to be about the referees on a Sunday Night Football with Chiefs 0-2? Do we think the NFL is going to want the Chiefs to go 0-3 to start the season?
Oh, jeez.
That's a good question. I'm not going to lie to you.
There is.
I don't know what you can or can't say, Paul. That's what I said, tongue in cheek, but I had to put it out there.
Loaded question, man. Loaded question.
Let me just say this. I appreciate the spot, right? I do appreciate the spot that the Giants are in. Kansas City is a universally loved team. They've got a well-earned reputation for being championship contenders. And even though they are not maybe what they have been in years past, we all know this is a really tough spot for the Giants, especially since even going back to some of the championship teams, they were not always a great prime time team.
No.
I mean, you guys know this.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a rather ugly prime time resume for this franchise over the years. So it is a rough spot. And so if you just want to talk about intangibles, for lack of a better term, the intangibles are not good for the Giants. I'm not going to dispute that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, at least it's at home for us. So, I mean, that may be.
Sean, you know what I said? Again, I have to watch the game because I only got the chance to listen to the game. And by the way, the Cowboys announcers were brutal. And I don't like to talk bad about anybody. They just were like, I don't know if they couldn't see the game really well. They would make a call. Usually 1 out of every 2 calls were wrong and they'd have to correct themselves. I was just like, what? When Wan'Dale Robinson scored his touchdown, they didn't even say touchdown. They were like, that's a great pass from Wilson to Wan'Dale. And I was like, what happened? Did he score? What happened? So I struggled a little bit. But I will say it felt Sunday with no visuals, okay, just audio. There was a difference in the team, like what they were doing. There was fight in the team. They weren't giving up. They were, they made some plays. So I wonder if there is a little bit of mojo to this team. Like whether they win or they lose on Sunday night is different, but this team does feel different. I know we always say that, but this team does feel different because there is no more Barkley. There is no more Jones, right? There is a little bit of something that's a little different. It's the Wilson Dart thing. It's the Carter thing, right? It's the Burns. I just think there's a little something. So maybe we shock them on Sunday.
Well, look, the one thing that we know, fellas, is that, sloppy September does tend to lend itself to some crazy results and crazy outcomes in the first 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 weeks of the season. I'm not going to tell you that the Giants can't beat Kansas City. I'm not going to tell you that. But I think the world would believe that it'd be a pretty big headline if they do. And you know what? Mm-hmm. Here's the one thing I will add. And, I get it. The critics and the people who are overly frustrated, they don't want to hear logic. They don't want to hear information. All they want to do is set fire and throw torches and be angry. And I understand that. Believe me, I do. I have enough of fans over the course of the last decade who have certainly come heavy at me because they don't want to hear anything that's rational. They just want to be angry. And that's fine. That's fine. I totally get it. In fact, Craig, even a couple of times I've messaged you on some things you've said on Twitter that you were just being angry and hot-headed and you weren't using your brain.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time, Paul. It happens all the time.
I tried to rope you in a little bit,
100%. But that's what, and I always appreciate the fact that you will remind me. You're like, hey, rein yourself in a little bit. It's okay.
Well, because I think you're more sensible than a lot of people who just get carried away with emotion and frustration. I get the people. I understand the people who do. I really do. I totally understand it. But it does help sometimes to understand the logic and the rationale and to look for the reasons why things are happening and to try to find solutions instead of wasting energy just being angry.
Yeah,
that doesn't 100%. Do anybody any good.
All right, overall, overall, that's what Rush has always done. All the guys that I've had on, all the guys, we're always like, we have some fun, but we always try to be like, listen, we got a lot of football guys here that have played football, coached football, covered football. So we try to always be like, look, it's just not as black and white as you think it is.
Well, that's why I'm willing to come on your program because I do have some sensibilities with you guys. I understand you got some sensibilities. If you were just, hotheads who were just going to scream and yell and want to burn the building down, I wouldn't be on your show.
Yeah.
But to the point that I want to make, and I know we all have overreaction Monday, right? We talk about this all the time in the NFL. Overreaction Monday. You don't get style points like you used to get in the NCAA college football poll. right?
Right.
There were style
Right.
points. It was about how badly did you crush an opponent, or how badly did you lose, or did you lose a close game? It's a moral victory. Maybe that's going to help you in the poll when it comes out this week. The
Yeah.
NFL doesn't work that way. They care about the W's and the L's, and they don't give style points. They don't care about your emotions. They don't care about your bleeding hearts. They don't give a flying horse's butt about any of that stuff. They
Yep.
care about the W's and the L's. Here's what I would tell you from the glass half full perspective. When the Giants' schedule came out and we knew it was going to be nasty,
Woo.
right? We knew it was going to be nasty. I looked at the schedule and I said, all right, if you want to try to navigate this, best case scenario, you got to be 2-2 after the first 4 games.
Okay.
And I felt that way, and I told everybody on every show I was on from the minute the schedule came out until probably after the first preseason game. I said, look, 2-2 the first 4 games. If you can get there, and that was after months of talking about it, you've got a chance then to now say, okay, we went through sloppy September. We now know what we are. Let's see where they're going to take this. Let's see if we can reevaluate now that they've kind of got their sea legs in the cement. And in all honesty, that's what the Giants have to do right now. They have to reset themselves. Forget about the bleeding hearts. Forget about the spilled milk. Forget about the emotions of the skunk that they put on the field in Washington. Forget about the 10 times gut punches that they took in Dallas because they gave a game away. They got to forget about all that. And they have to say, you know what? Kansas City's 0-2. How can we make them 0-3? And after we do that, and we're 1-2, and we've upset a team that nobody thinks we can beat, and by the way, we're home the following week too, let's see if we don't have an opportunity to get to 2-2, which is what everybody in April and May should have been thinking about when the schedule came out. That's the glass half full perspective. They still have a chance to get to 2-2. So pump the brakes and don't go rolling down the hill with a mudslide just yet.
I'll double down on your glass half full. You ready? I bet in that locker room there's a lot of guys that believe in what they're doing because they have not played that well in Dallas in a decade. So I'll double down and say, you know what? They're a play away. They're 2 plays away. They're 3 plays away from winning that game. They made some mistakes, but overall, no one's going to admit it. But we all thought they were going to get smoked by 3 touchdowns or 17 points. And the game that we saw was we got more than we asked for, right? And now there's guys in that locker room that go, hey, we actually can do this. You really didn't have that over the last couple of years. It was a lot of turmoil and different sides of the locker room and stuff. This, and again, I'm doubling down on your positivity. I do believe that the players have to buy in. And the players have to believe they can do it. And that they're not a lost cause. And there's guys out there like Holland, who's brand new, that wants to do something, right? And Carter, right? And Adebo. These guys are all fresh. Wilson. So I do believe that it's got a different attitude. But again, the result was we hung in there with Dallas that was supposed to smoke us in Dallas. It's the best result we've had in Dallas in a decade. We're on to something. So while it may be, as you said, a little slower of a burn, you might be 1-3 after 4, right? Or 2-3 after 5. But I definitely think there's a different perspective from the players this year than years past.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they're 2-3 after 5 with the Philadelphia Eagles on deck coming to MetLife Stadium, I think you'd sign up for that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure you would.
100%.
And that's still possible. So why not do everything within your power to make that happen if you're this team? To lock out the outside noise, and I get the gut punch, but do what you got to do to get to 2-2. Well, certainly get the first one first, obviously, or you can't get to 2-2, and I get that. But here's the thing too. I want to say you mentioned about the guys on the locker room. You know, there's only 5 guys on this roster who were on the Giants the last time they beat the Dallas Cowboys in the season finale of the 2020 season. You want to name the 5, or should I just give them to you?
No, hang on.
I know
So
Dexter.
yeah,
Yep.
so got to be Dexter Lawrence. Got to be let's see. So
Andrew
it's not
Thomas.
Yes.
Andrew Thomas, because he was part of that draft class.
No,
No, it wasn't McFadden and Belton.
No.
They were after that.
no, yeah, they were after. Yep.
Slayton.
Yes.
Kreider.
Yes.
Okay.
You guys are pretty good.
And then it's got to be. It's got to be. Wait, let me really think for a second. No. Thomas. How many we missing? 1 or 2?
You're missing
Just
one
one.
more. There was only 5
Is he-
guys.
Can you say which side of the bowl's on? Can you give us a hint on the fifth?
would help a lot.
That would be
I'm
too
telling you.
easy.
I'm telling you, I'll get it. I'll
I
get
know
it.
it's gonna be.
You know what's funny about it though? It was only 5 guys, and Thomas, of course, wasn't even active for this game this past Sunday. So one of the things that I was going to try to do on the post-game show on MSG was I was going to make sure that I got to at least 1 or 2 of those guys who had last beaten Dallas in 2020, because I wanted to ask them about how great did it feel to finally get that monkey off the back again.
I think I got it.
Yeah.
Is it Gano?
Bingo.
Yep,
That's
that's
number
why.
5.
Just before you said it, that's what I thought of. God, I forgot
That's
he's
it.
been here that long.
That's it. 5 guys.
Yeah, I feel accomplished right now.
You should.
Yeah, right. We did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to give you Kreider. I would have never pulled that one off. So that was kudos to you. Well, look, Paul, I know you don't want to hang out with us all night.
Well, I appreciate that, because you know what? I actually had a meal that I was going to eat, and I wound up pushing off my meal for 90 minutes for you guys.
I'm sorry, Paul.
We
I'm
appreciate
sorry.
that. Was it an
Thank you,
Italian dish, Paul? That's my question.
It's actually a full plate of rotini. Yes, sir.
All right. We
nice.
gotta let you go.
Okay,
Well, look,
yeah, we can't let the man miss
I don't
the
know what it
Italian
is, but
dinner.
I'll
Come on,
trust you.
Greg.
hey, it's always a pleasure having you. You're always good to us. I'm sure I'll see you at the. I'll see you Sunday night. Are you guys doing a show outside?
No, our radio pregame, we do it up in the radio booth now. We stopped doing the show out on the concourse last season.
So no, all season long, you guys aren't outside?
Yeah, all season long. They decided last year to move us back up to the radio booth, so we're not outside at all. Maybe some other time, maybe next year, who knows? But for the time being, all of our radio pregames are upstairs in the booth.
Got it. Because normally I stop by to see you, on the way in.
You have done that many times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure one way or another we'll either reconnect during the season, during a bye week or something to get some more perspective. And what are you hosting? Are you on the podcast this week? Are you on every week?
Yeah, this week. Well, let's see. I did Big Blue Kickoff Live earlier today. I'll be back on BBKL on Friday. Of course, I've got the Big Blue Breakdown with the Sports Illustrated people that I do stream on Wednesday nights. That'll be at 8 o'clock live Eastern time on Wednesday night. And those are the only 3 programs right now that I've got scheduled for the week. And then obviously we'll be part of the radio pregame and radio postgame and TV postgame on WFAN and MSG surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs contest.
Love that. And guys, you guys know Paul. He's always the again. What did you call him, Sean? The pillar of positivity.
The pillar of positivity.
I love it.
Love it. Well, listen, go eat dinner. Tell the family we're sorry to keep you so long, and I'm sure we'll connect during the year.
Thanks,
Fellas,
Paul.
good to talk to you. It's been a lot of fun. Stay well.
Yeah,
All right, Paul.
Appreciate it.
You as well, sir.